Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. This will be a spoiler review. I do have a review up on my blog, soundedbettermyhead.com. I think I kept that pretty spoiler free, so if you want to check that out instead, that's cool. I end up going with a 2.5 out of 5 on this one. Um, couple reasons it was a little bit lower score than I considered actually going with. For a minute I thought about maybe going with a 3. For one, the movie's it's just too long. I think especially the first half or so, maybe the first third of it is just it's kind of a slog to get through. So when I think about trying to watch this movie again, I just have no desire anytime soon. So I think just for that, it goes down, a bit. Even though they no longer call this Dead Reckoning Part 2, it is still Part 2 of the last movie. It, continues on the exact same storyline. It does kind of try to bring the audience up to speed. So if you didn't see it or if you don't remember all the details, they try to tell you what you need to know. I don't think you lose something with the characters. Like, they give you a little bit about who these characters are, but if you didn't see the last movie, I don't think the characters are just, you can't connect to these characters. It's like, I don't know who these people are. I think when you see the last film and see how they had their little arcs there and to where they're at now, I think all that works a lot better. I think the team chemistry has always been like one of the better things about this franchise. One weird thing is that we do have the teams mostly back together, and usually that means a lot of fun back and forth, a lot of banter, and that's where some of the humor comes from, and it kind of lightens things up for the films. There's very little of that here. There's bits and pieces, but it's actually not a lot of moments where I found myself laughing at anything. Usually you get a couple chuckles throughout these films, and it's I don't know, it's just not there. It's all serious and a lot of doom and gloom. I mean, there are some lighthearted moments, but for the most part, it's just kind of like end of the world stuff. Plot and pacing. I think the first section it's just tough to get through. It's just really weirdly paced and feels like it's taking forever to kind of get going. And it's like a lot of this like misdirects, and the villain from the last film, Gabriel, who's also back in this film, was never interested in the beginning to begin with, and his new motivation isn't much better than his old motivation. Like the first one, he's like, I'm working for the entity, the evil AI, and now it's like, no, I'm not working for the AI, so now I'm going to control it. It's like you have no depth to his character. They hint that he has some kind of origin story tied to Ethan's, but they still don't get into what that was. And on top of that, this is supposedly the last film. I don't know, the box office sounds like it's going to be pretty solid. And I'm sure Tom Cruise seems like he's always up for doing more of these, but it's really played to be the final reckoning, the final movie, what do you want to call it. They do just a lot of callbacks. I'll get back to that stuff in a little bit. I want to get back to the plot again. But after this kind of weird back and forth, and you got this weird section where Ethan puts on this cyber mask and it shows him glimpses of like a possible futures, and it just really seems out of place in these movies. It's borderline like sci-fi. It just basically gives them an excuse to like show nuclear war and like do some nuke going off when they, it's not the type of movie that normally has nuclear war destroying cities. Not the type of franchise, I should say. But then finally, when Ethan's trying to get to the nuclear submarine in the ocean, then it starts picking up. It still moves very slowly. I don't think it would be so bad if the first section of the movie was just kind of drags so much, but moves very slowly. There's a lot of tension, especially with Ethan going down to the submarine. It's no dialogue. It's just him trying to navigate the sub as it's kind of rolling around underwater, and it's well done. It's like a lot of tension, especially from the music. The score's really good. But in the back of your head, you just know, it's like, okay, this is not the type of movie they're going to kill the lead character halfway through the film and have him fail, and then theoretically the rest of the movie is just about nuclear war. Like, you just know, okay, he's getting out of here. There's no doubt about it. Plus, on the poster, he's hanging out the side of a plane, which has not happened yet in the movie. So, like, okay, there's plenty more to go for this character. And then again, this section feels like it's leading to the finale, and it kind of is, because then you eventually move to the South African bunker, and then that's just kind of chaos. Like, everybody's got their own idea of what they want to do with this AI, so it's a lot of lot of hands in the pot here of what's going on. So that's kind of like a little too much. I think that could have been stripped down a bit. And a lot of cutting back to the White House, where they're ready to start nuclear war to save themselves from nuclear war, and that's just a little adds some tension. But it's like, I don't know, it's a layer I'm not sure the movie totally needs, but it kind of does, if that makes any sense. And then you do get your big plane chase, which is the chase itself is mediocre, to be honest. And the way they off Gabriel is silly. But obviously, I'm assuming it's Tom Cruise really hanging off the side of a plane, and I'm sure he's got wires holding him on there, and they CGI paint him out so you don't see the wires, for safety. But for the most part, it's him hanging off the side of a plane, doing all these like flips and stuff. So that's always what just comes. One of the reasons you see these movies to see what he's gonna risk for the audience. And then they do a death fake out with him and a death fake out with Benji, which almost feels believable just for the fact that it's supposed to be the last movie, and the fact that they kill Luthen early in the film, which is weird because they added this weird layer to it where apparently he's dying now, I guess. Like, I don't remember anything in the other films where he was like sick, and now it's like, oh yeah, he's got a secret little hospital bed and there's something wrong with him. They got a nurse and everything. And I don't know where that came. It was almost like they just wanted you to not feel so bad that he had to die to save the city from this bomb. It was a strange choice. And then the end's just kind of vague and ambiguous. It's like, yeah, they won. Ethan's got this evil computer and like a little, whatever you want to call it, some kind of weird glowing drive, and then everyone just walks away. Like, I don't. It seemed like he'd want to destroy this thing immediately, or is he still planning? They want him to use it. At one point, they said, "Yeah, you should use it to make the world a better place." And that's another weird thing. They kept saying like, Ethan's plan. Everyone had a plan for what they were supposed to do, and obviously, knowing these films, Ethan's plan is going to be the right one. So whatever he says we should do, that's what you should do. As an audience member trying to watch this thing. But his plan, and they kept saying, "Oh, it's a bad idea. It's going to destroy the internet. It's going to screw the whole world up. It's going to be a terrible thing to do." And then it seems like everybody just lost power, and then the power came back on, and everything was fine. Like, there was no big disaster. Like, his way was, perfect, and there was no problem with it, except that it was, impossible to pull it off. Then I hinted at, there's a lot of callbacks to the previous films, from just flat out showing footage from all the different Mission Impossibles to, characters coming back. I don't remember the name of the character offhand, but he was, from the very first one, he kind of ran the system that Ethan had to famously break into in the original film, where he dropped down, couldn't touch the floor, and he ended up dropping his knife at the end. Like, that guy is back, and they actually found a good role for him. Then there's some weird retcons, though, like the rabbit's foot from, I think it was a second film. It was like just a MacGuffin. They never told you what it was. It was almost like that was part of the joke. Now suddenly it was never really a bioweapon, like, even though it was clearly marked as a bioweapon. Now it turns out it was some kind of computer software that eventually became the entity, which is a weird thing to throw in there. Turns out one of the guys that was been chasing Ethan the last movie or so, he's secretly Jim Phelps Jr. for no reason. I don't think that had any kind of like, I don't think that added anything to the plot at all. They had some resolution at the end, but I don't feel like I didn't care. There was a lot of stuff this film had in it too that just wasn't needed. This is already long enough, and it's like, why is some of this stuff in here? Like, I don't remember. Maybe it was in some of the previous films. I only seen most of these one time, but I don't remember anything there being with the president and their son. Like, there's this thing about her son later in the movie, and at the end there's this big dramatic moment where she sees her son. He's a soldier. She gives him a big hug. Like, was there a storyline with her character in previous films where she didn't get to see her son for some reason? Like, I don't remember that being an important story to her character. So either it wasn't there, or it was just so forgettable. This meant nothing to me. Her big reunion at the end. Like, there was probably easily a half hour you could have trimmed down on this movie. And then weird stuff, like, there was this kind of cult that was like hoping that the computer won, and they were all over the place. Like, looked like Secret Service agents and soldiers, like everybody in like high levels was like part of this cult. Like, that seemed kind of weird. So basically, overall, I've probably been going on about this movie too much. There's probably still stuff I could have mentioned, you know, but just it's kind of a slog in the beginning, and then it picks up, and then the submarine scene's pretty tense, and then some decent action at the end. You know, from that part on, it's pretty entertaining. But the beginning's a little like slow, and it feels like it goes on forever. And then even the second half isn't great. I think you could have trimmed some stuff out of that second half. And even then, like there's usually a cool car chase. Like they had a real quick car chase here, and you couldn't really see it. It was like tight quarters. They're going through these tunnels, so that just kind of like took the wind out of the sails for that being exciting. It's like, okay, the best they could do is make it look like Ethan went flipping over in this car, and that was like the highlight of that chase. I said the film's lacking a lot of its trademark humor. Still like the characters though. I still think Haley Atwell was a great addition to the cast. Just kind of weird seeing other characters. They're just suddenly part of the team now, which it's fine. That's how these movies work. Like I said, this movie, I've said it before, other people have said it. It's like somewhere between like the James Bond kind of stuff and the Fast and the Furious kind of stuff. But like the way the team comes together and like the wild stunts, except the difference here, most of the wild stunts are basically really done, and they're usually done by like Tom Cruise himself. But I think that's about all I'm gonna say about this movie. It's enjoyable overall. It needs to be a lot shorter. Other than that, I do got this review up on my blog with no spoilers. It's a little bit more streamlined. I got reviews for other movies on there. I got my TV show reviews. I got my comic strip that I do. So if you feel like checking any of that stuff out, that's cool. Other than that, thanks for watching.